I was so broke I didn't know which way was up. So I pretended to be rich and took on a sugar baby. He tried his damnedest to act poor. And I did everything I could to pretend I couldn't see through his act. Eventually, the sugar baby's mother found me. I finally got the astronomical breakup fee and skipped town that very night. But I was cornered the second I got off the plane. Staring at the furious man in front of me. I sold out his mom without a second thought. Leo, he just laughed, but there was no humor in it. Where you're from, do you call a $13 million dowry a breakup fee? I met Leo when I was so broke I could barely function. His wet hair covered part of his eyes, but it did nothing to hide his stunning good looks. My own eyes lit up. With a face like that, he could make a fortune doing group streams or just thirst trapping. I'd put him front and center, with a few average-looking guys on either side. It would only make his beauty shine brighter. Once I made enough money, I'd start my own MCN, make it big, build an empire. After 20+ years of taking the hard road, I'd finally found my golden ticket. I suppressed a creepy smile and approached him. Hey, sweetie. Your sugar mama's got money. Wanna come home with me? He shot me a look of pure ice. Like I was a piece of trash. I kept the smile plastered on my face. With guys, you have to win over their hearts. I don't know what you're going through, but I get it. It's that conflict, that contradiction, that drew me to you at first sight. Just give me a chance. Let me take care of you. After that last line, Leo came with me. And in that moment, I understood. No one, man or woman, is immune to that line. I took Leo back to my tiny, run-down apartment. He was so tall he smacked his head on the doorframe walking in. I watched in horror as a red mark bloomed on his forehead. That face was my cash cow. I jumped up and smacked the doorframe 3 times. Bad doorframe. Our Leo is a good boy. We won't stoop to its level. I pulled him over to the couch. I wrapped some ice in a towel and pressed it to his forehead. I blew on it gently. Is that any better? Leo had the most beautiful eyes, the kind you could get lost in. When he looked at me so intently, my heart couldn't help but race. If even a hard-hearted pragmatist like me could fall for it. The legions of simps online didn't stand a chance. Yeah, but it would have been fine by now if you weren't pressing a giant ice cube into my skull. I pulled my hand back, wounded. I was just so worried about you. And your money-making face, I finished silently. Before I could finish, he took my hand and placed it back on his forehead. No, keep going. It actually feels nice. Leo scanned the room. His gaze landed on me, as if to say, so this is what you call being a sugar mama? What, was this not good enough? It was a 1-bedroom with a living room, a kitchen, and a bathroom. Modern decor, no formaldehyde smell. I mean, come on. This was pretty luxurious. Leo clearly looked like some college kid, fresh out in the world, who didn't know the first thing about real hardship. It was normal for him not to get it. Anyway, when you're out and about, you can be whoever you want to be. I spun a story for myself about being a rich girl who'd run away from home after a fight with my parents. Just wait, till I sneak back home to grab my funds to support you. I'll make sure you live a life of luxury. I don't know if he bought it, but my face was usually pretty convincing. I had, after all, been an influencer with over 200,000 followers. But then I got screwed over by an MCN. I had to delete my account and pay a hefty fine. Leo got ready to take a shower. On second thought, I hid my oversized t-shirts in the back of the closet. Besides the face, the body was also important. Leo was surprisingly generous, coming out with just a pair of pants on. I stared at him, my eyes glued. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, a perfect V taper. His proportions were insane. He looked very promising. I took Leo's hand, led him into the bedroom, and pushed him down onto the bed. He looked so adorably cool that I couldn't resist ruffling his hair. The sheets are fresh. You take the bed, I'll take the couch. Good night. And so we lived, with mutual respect. For a whole week. It was my fault for asking him his age. Turns out he was only 21. He should still be in college. I pressed on. So, why aren't you in school? Leo paused for a moment. I'm done with school. So he didn't go to college. What about your parents? Leo fell silent again. My mom's in the hospital. I don't know where my dad is. A sick mom and a missing dad. All he was missing was a little sister to support to complete the sob story trifecta. A wave of charity washed over me. Well, you can stay here as long as you need. I'll take care of you. After half a month of an unusual drain on my bank account, I finally realized something was wrong. My expenses had more than doubled compared to last month. At first, I just thought boys ate a lot. Until we ordered takeout together one weekend. I discovered that Leo never used promo codes for food delivery. That was a $10 coupon we were talking about. He hadn't used one in over 2 weeks. I'm surprised the sun didn't strike me dead right then and there. I wanted to say something, but then I remembered the rich girl persona I'd created. I swallowed my words. Life forced our hand, and we started cooking for ourselves. Luckily, Leo knew how to cook. I took him to the nearest market. I told him to buy our groceries there from now on. On his first trip, he spent over $100. Beef tenderloin, mangosteens. I held my tongue. It's fine. Money spent on food that goes into your stomach isn't wasted. Halfway through cooking, Leo told me he forgot to buy scallions. Buy them? Even I, who barely cooked, knew you were supposed to get those for free. Something exploded in my brain. On a whim, I hit him with the ultimate broke person test. A hot dog is $3. How much for 2? $6, duh. Leo looked at me, confused, as if wondering why I was asking such a dumb question. I wasn't ready to give up. I asked another one. Chicken wings are $15 a pound. How much for a pound and a half? Leo answered instantly. $22.50. I couldn't help but clap. Amazing. You got them all right. Leo didn't catch my sarcasm and just grinned back. Are you giving me easy questions to cheer me up? I'm not a kid anymore. I gave Leo another long look. He was wearing the same clothes he'd had on when he arrived. I'd assumed they were cheap knockoffs, which was why they had no brand. But how could a knockoff have this kind of quality? This was clearly the bespoke tailoring I'd only ever heard about. Looking back at Leo's face, it was practically screaming expensive and extraordinary. I barely touched my dinner and collapsed onto the couch. In the middle of the night, I pulled out my laptop and started looking up Leo's background. When I was done, I felt my world shatter. His family's company spanned aviation, real estate, and several other industries. His mother was the director of a private hospital. And what was that crap about not going to college? The guy graduated from a top 10 university at 19. He spent the next few years as a race car driver, winning several championships. He even started his own racing team. How could he possibly be broke? The more I read, the angrier I got. I couldn't stop myself from pushing open his bedroom door. Leo sat up and looked at me. What's wrong? I didn't say a word. I just pulled back the covers and climbed into bed. This was my house, my bed. Why the hell did I let him sleep here while I slept on the couch for over 2 weeks? Thinking back on it, I wanted to slap myself silly. Leo tucked the covers around me. Did you have a nightmare? My eyes snapped open, and I glared at him. Do you even know what a sugar baby arrangement is? Leo nodded. Good. Because I'm going to kiss you now. I thought for a second, then added. And there's no tip. The corner of Leo's mouth seemed to twitch upward before he forced it back down. He was laughing at me. Daring to laugh at his benefactor? He was done for. I hooked my arm around his neck and pulled him down. I bit his lip. The kiss grew fiercer, and soon it was hard to tell who was refusing to let go of whom. I lay on the bed, panting for air. Leo's eyes were still locked on me. I let out a cold snort. Your kissing skills are just so-so. I started tallying up all the money I'd spent on Leo recently. Without realizing it, I'd already blown over $3,000 on him. It was pouring salt on the wound of my already struggling finances. I was trying to figure out how to get it back from him. When Leo walked out of the bedroom, I deliberately ignored him, but he just knelt on the couch and pinned me underneath him. You. I only managed to get one word out before his mouth covered mine. You were right, I'm a little rusty on my kissing. He leaned in again. So you'll just have to help me practice. He kissed me until my head was spinning. Before I knew it, he had carried me into the bedroom. The next morning, the space beside me was empty. I walked out to the living room and saw Leo's nearly 6'3" frame curled up on the couch. Being too rich has its downsides. For instance, he had no idea it was actually a sofa bed. Serves him right. I wasn't going to tell him. Let him suffer for pretending to be poor and tricking me. Before I could wipe the smirk off my face, Leo's eyes opened. They were clear, not at all like someone who had just woken up. You've been staring at me for a while. You want a kiss? Before I could answer, he kissed me. If you're too shy to ask, I'll just take the lead. My mouth twitched. He didn't even need a scene partner. He could write, direct, and star in his own one-man show. I wanted to get mad, but one look at that handsome face and my anger just evaporated. Fine. If he wanted to play pretend, I'd play along. I'd eat what I wanted, sleep where I wanted. And maybe, just maybe, I'd get a nice breakup fee out of it in the end. Thinking about it that way, I couldn't lose. On my way home from work, I saw a luxury car parked at the entrance of my apartment complex. My gut told me it had something to do with Leo. Sure enough, I saw Leo and his mother around the corner. They seemed to be arguing. I couldn't hear clearly. I could only make out a few phrases. I'm not a toy in your hands. I have my own things I want to do. Then his mom yelled back. Then I'll freeze all your bank cards and see how you survive. Leo didn't seem to care at all. He even shot back a sarcastic retort. Well, I should thank you and Dad for giving me such a good face. I can always get by being some rich woman's sugar baby. His mom was so angry she stumbled, sputtering you over and over. Finally, she slapped him across the face and stormed off. I wandered around outside for another half hour. I couldn't figure it out. What did he mean? He could find a rich woman to support him. Did he have another sugar mama? He must have seen through my rich girl act a long time ago. But he was sleeping with me every night. Was he moonlighting with someone else during the day? I returned home, my head full of questions. Leo was sitting on the couch, hugging his knees. His skin was so fair that the red handprint stood out clearly on his cheek. It was impossible to ignore. What happened to you? I was just making small talk. But Leo acted as if he'd been waiting for me to ask. I have no home now. Can you take care of me forever? The forever that rolled so easily off his tongue now was nothing more than the confident bravado of a spoiled only child. But what did that have to do with me? A person with a 4-figure salary shouldn't be worrying about someone who makes that much in an hour. All I had to do now was wait. Wait to be found out. Then I could take the money and run. Leo, seemingly displeased by my zoned-out expression, placed a hand on the small of my back. You're not answering. Do you have another boy toy? Another boy toy? I was already going broke supporting just him. Don't be so crude. Leo let out a cold snort. You think my words are crude now? You didn't seem to mind when you were kissing me. Leo's eyes were shimmering, practically overflowing. The tips of his lashes were like tiny hooks, pulling at my heartstrings and making me itch. Seeing my dazed expression, Leo seemed a little smug. Babe. When faced with such beauty, some things are just out of your control. Leo wasn't home. The apartment suddenly felt empty, and I found it a little unsettling. The clock was about to strike 9 when Leo finally rushed home. When he walked through the door, I almost didn't recognize him. The pampered young master had turned into a grimy mess. I would have believed he'd just come back from a war. But I could tell he was pretty happy. He didn't look like he'd been in a fight. I couldn't hold back my curiosity. What have you been up to? Fixing cars. You said you'd take care of me, but I'm a man. I have to provide for our family. He sounded pretty proud of himself. But my brow furrowed. Was he serious? Or did he just find this experiencing real-life thing amusing? Suddenly, something was placed in my palm. It was money. Looked like over a dozen bills. How did you get so much? Can you make that much fixing cars? And get paid daily? Leo explained, I'm good at it. And I don't work on regular cars. His explanation was all I needed to figure it out. He was working on professional race cars. That kind of pay wasn't surprising then. But would anyone really give up a life of luxury to willingly choose hardship? Was this that whole I don't want a lot of money, I want a lot of love thing? Leo leaned in, ready to be all cute and cuddly. I instinctively took a step back. Leo looked down at himself. I'll go take a shower first. After we'd become intimate, Leo had stopped wearing a shirt after his showers. My eyes immediately zeroed in on the red, swollen patch on his shoulder. What happened? Leo instantly transformed into a pathetic puppy. Something fell on it. Can you put some ointment on it for me? As I rubbed the ointment on his shoulder, I tried to probe him. Aren't you tired? Doesn't this hurt? Leo had a smile on his face. My body is tired, but my heart is happy. Was it because he'd never known hardship that he could say something like that so easily? Or did he really mean it? I couldn't be bothered to guess. This was only the first day. Once he'd had enough of the real world, he'd learn. The moment I put the ointment down, Leo flipped me over and pinned me to the bed. I stared at him, shocked. Aren't you exhausted? He smirked and whispered in my ear. For me, this is how I recharge. For 2 straight weeks, Leo came home later than I did. And every time, he'd hand his wages over to me. Sometimes over 1,000, sometimes a few hundred. With that money, plus my own salary, it seemed like we could actually make a good life for ourselves. A comfortable one, even. I shook my head. It had only been 2 weeks. It just meant the novelty hadn't worn off yet. It wouldn't be like this in a year or 2. We didn't even make it a year or 2 before Leo's mother found me. So, you're the little rich girl supporting my Leo? Her tone was light and teasing. Not condescending or harsh. I nodded, admitting it. She pulled out a stack of photos. They were all of Leo. Pictures of him working hard on cars, and others of him fighting with someone. What happened here? His mom sighed and explained, this guy has had it out for Leo since they were kids. He heard Leo was working at that garage and went there just to start trouble. You're both still young. A lot of things aren't as simple as you think. Even if we were willing to let him walk away from it all, there will always be people chasing after him. Do you understand what I'm saying? I nodded. I understood. A tall tree attracts the wind. The He family was a giant prize, and countless people were eyeing it, watching their every move. Leo was their only son. This was a responsibility he was meant to bear. So, can you do me a favor and talk some sense into him? I forced a smile. I'll do my best. His mother smiled warmly. By the way, Leo must have cost you a lot of money this past year. I held up 3 fingers. 3 million, right? Take this card. There are 5 million in it. Consider it repayment. My eyes went wide, and I waved my hands frantically. It wasn't that much. In total, I'd spent maybe $3,000 on him. For the last 6 months, Leo was the one bringing money home. Really, it wasn't nearly that much. It was off by several zeros. Before I could finish, his mother cut me off. It's a gift from an elder. It would be rude to refuse. With that, refusing would have been impolite. Then, she handed me another card. This one is just for you. I hope you understand what I mean. Here it comes. This had to be the breakup fee. I knew this day would come from the very beginning. So it didn't hurt that much. I took the card. Don't worry. I understand completely. Leo came home that night. As expected, he was covered in injuries. His lip was bruised and purple. He actually looked even hotter, all beat up. Remembering the task his mother had given me, I walked over to him. My fingertips gently brushed over his bruised lip. I think you should go home. At the very least, you should get payback for this. Leo stared at me, stunned. You're right. I'll go home tomorrow. Hearing his answer, I smiled in relief. But after the smile faded, I felt a little empty. I think it was because he agreed too quickly. That's the only reason. It had to be. Between money and a man, of course you choose the money. That had always been my life's motto. I had intended to leave the $5 million card behind. But when it was time to go, I couldn't help but take it with me. When faced with $5 million, pride doesn't seem all that important. I sent my friend Sasha $20,000. She was a friend I'd made back when I was an influencer. We both wanted to get out of our contracts, but she still lent me $3,000 so I could leave first. Now that I had money, it was my turn to bail her out. Besides her, I knew 2 other influencers who hadn't signed with an agency yet. Both were handsome guys, and one could even dance. I didn't wait. I flew directly to B-City to talk to them about signing. I laid out a bunch of conditions, but they seemed unimpressed. Until I mentioned I'd provide benefits, cover room and board, and give them weekends off. I spent the next few days scouting talent, so busy I barely had time to breathe. Naturally, I didn't have time to think about Leo. Until I got off the plane and a male body blocked my path. Leo stood in front of me like a brick wall. His face was dark, and he did not look happy. My heart clenched, and I swallowed hard. Was he here for the money? Leo took a step forward, and I took a step back. That just made him angrier. You're avoiding me? Am I some kind of monster? Are you that scared of me? I shook my head. No, I'm not. The atmosphere was tense. Neither of us spoke. He just stared at me for what felt like an eternity. He let out a low, guttural sound. You seem to be doing well for yourself. You're even glowing after just a little time apart. Of course I'm glowing when I don't have to work. Leo, what are you doing here? Leo gritted his teeth and forced out a few words. What do you think? My face fell. To collect a debt? That's right. I'm here to collect a debt. Leo was not acting like a domineering CEO at all. Who asks for their money back like this? I can't pay you back right now. Can you give me some time? Leo didn't say anything. I quietly tried to inch my luggage away, preparing to make a run for it. With one long arm, he snatched my suitcase. I wanted to protest, but one look at his eyes and I shut my mouth. You really can't have a guilty conscience. He never would have dared to treat me like this before. Let's go. I need to see if there's anything in your place that can cover the debt. I shot him a glare, but ultimately, I followed him. Under Leo's death glare, I opened the door. A few handsome guys sitting on my couch waved and greeted me. For some reason, a chill ran down my spine. It felt like I was being watched by something sinister. Before I could even turn around, a hand gripped my waist. I didn't need to turn. I knew exactly where that cold aura was coming from. So you dumped me because one wasn't enough, huh? I stared at him, dumbfounded. Weren't you here to collect a debt? Leo slammed the door shut with a loud bang. Of course I am. I'm here to collect a debt of the heart. But it looks like you have a lot of those outstanding. I was about to tell him he'd misunderstood. But the words died on my lips. I used the money his mother gave me, so I had to do the job right. Leo and I were from different worlds. You have to know your place. Giving up is the most dignified thing for everyone involved. I lifted my chin and looked him straight in the eye. You get tired of looking at the same face, no matter how handsome it is. Go home. You can't collect on a debt of the heart. You just have to suck it up and swallow the pain. Leo blocked my path with one arm, the other wrapped around my waist. He had me completely trapped in his embrace. Leo, Mr. Big shot, don't be such a sore loser. Leo's grip tightened, a shameless grin on his face. You're right. I am a sore loser. I was so mad I slapped him. Leo, I've given you enough slack, haven't I? Leo didn't get angry. He just smiled. That felt right. Want to give the other cheek a try? This guy was immune to everything, soft or hard tactics. I was at my wit's end. The door suddenly opened, and a guy named Dave peeked his head in. Hey, is this the new guy? The harem is expanding, I see. The other guys in the room all ran over. They started howling dramatically. Damn, he's hot. I feel like my position is threatened. Am I still your favorite boy toy? Leo's jaw clenched tighter and tighter. He was so angry his eyes were red, and the corners were glistening with tears. I'm asking you one last time. Me, or them? I didn't even hesitate. Them. This time, Leo didn't say another word. He just turned and left, decisively. He wouldn't be back this time. He might act shameless and play games with me, but not in front of other people. He had his pride. The moment I closed the door, a few of the guys crowded around me. So, does that guy have a boyfriend? The one who spoke looked all shy. I gritted my teeth and couldn't stop myself from glaring at him. He's mine. The studio is ready. We start work there tomorrow. Everyone, clear out for today. Sasha and I were rooming together, so we'd rented a bigger place. It just so happened that Sasha wasn't home today. Once the company was up and running, Sasha took over recruitment. She sent me a message. She said there was a guy who was insisting on meeting the big boss. She couldn't put him off. I told her to just say no, but then she said he was so outrageously handsome that we'd regret it for life if we didn't sign him. Outrageously handsome? Could anyone be more handsome than Leo? Leo. Why was he all I could think about? Clearly, I wasn't busy enough if I still had time to think about men. Sasha sent another message. He says he's too busy to come here. He gave me a different address. Just go meet him there. I gritted my teeth. This guy is so high maintenance. Sasha replied instantly. You'll get it when you see him in person. The second you see that face, you'll forgive everything. I didn't take her seriously. With hype like that, he was bound to be a disappointment. From a distance, I saw the blurry figure of a guy. That must be him. Silver white hair, a build kind of like Leo's. His legs looked long. He was wearing a mask, so I couldn't see his face. I put down my bag and got straight to the point. Are you here to audition for a streamer position? I need to see your face. He didn't speak. Instead, he handed me a small, packaged cake. It was from that shop I'd been dying to try, and it was my favorite flavor. I thanked him politely. He still didn't take off his mask. Instead, he asked to see our office. I secretly snapped a picture and sent it to Sasha. Is this him? He wants to see the office. Yep, that's him. If he wants a tour, give him a tour. I wanted to smash my keyboard. Then why couldn't we have just met at the office in the first place? Sasha sent back a goofy sticker. He said he wanted cake. He's a hot guy. It's normal for them to be a little weird. I scoffed. He'd better be a hot guy. I brought him to my office. Can you take off the mask now? He still didn't move. My patience was wearing thin. We're not interested in signing you. The exit is to your left. Have a nice day. This place looks pretty good. I looked up in shock at the sound of his voice. That was Leo's voice. How could someone sound almost exactly like him? Noticing I was staring, the man slowly took off his mask. Leo's smile was intoxicating. The silver-white hair made his features even more striking. I blinked, and it took me a moment to process. What are you doing here? Leo, you dyed your hair? Are you crazy? Leo ignored my question, raising an eyebrow. Well, you've seen the face. Is it good enough for you? I grabbed his arm. Leo, stop this madness. Leo continued as if I hadn't spoken. After the face, I guess you need to inspect the body, right? Before I could say anything, he'd already pulled off his shirt. He grabbed my hand and placed it on his abs. So, is it acceptable? When I didn't move, he pressed my hand down, sliding it up and down. They're not painted on, you know. They're real. I was like his puppet, completely at his mercy. It wasn't until he guided my hand down from his abs that I finally cried out. Leo, stop it. Leo whispered mischievously in my ear. Don't you need to inspect the goods down there? Oh, wait, I forgot. You've already done a hands-on inspection. But it has been a while. Maybe you should check again. I was blushing from my face down to my neck. I tried to pull my hand away, but his grip was too strong. I smacked him hard. Leo, let go. You're hurting me. He finally released me. Seeing me rub my wrist, he took my hand again. But this time, he massaged it gently. Leo, you still haven't answered my question. Why did you dye your hair? Leo gave me a non-answer. You don't like it? Of course I liked it. With his face, any hairstyle would look good. But I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. I don't like it, I said deliberately. Leo smiled. Liar. Your eyes are practically glued to me. I threw my hands up in surrender. Fine. It's hot, you look amazing, but are you even allowed to dye your hair? Why not? I'm only 22. This is my rebellious phase. So why did you do it? Leo got all proud. Give me a kiss, and I'll tell you. My intuition told me this had something to do with me, and I was dying of curiosity. So I stood on my tiptoes and gave him a peck on the cheek. Just the cheek. I glared at him, and thankfully, he knew when to quit while he was ahead. I did it for a certain someone who said she'd get tired of me. So it really was because of me. Leo, I'm not worth it. Whether you're worth it or not is for me to decide. Leo was getting angry. I stayed quiet. He took a moment to compose himself before turning back to me. You just ran off because you think you're not worth it? I just stared at him, completely bewildered. What the hell? Not worth it? Please, I'm worth the absolute best. Seeing he still didn't get it, I rolled my eyes. Did he not understand it was just a polite way of rejecting someone? He was way too confident. Leo was completely lost. Then why did you suddenly leave? I was confused. You didn't know your mom came to see me? Leo nodded. I found out later. She asked you to convince me to come home, and I listened, didn't I? Did she yell at you? Was she rude to you? I shook my head. No, your mom was very nice to me. Then what was it? I had a feeling something wasn't right. After some hesitation, I finally spoke up. Your mom gave me 2 cards. One of them was for the breakup fee, right? What? Leo's face was a living question mark. What are you talking about? What breakup fee? I pulled out the card, my voice inexplicably weaker. This one. Leo laughed, but it was a strained, angry sound. He took several deep breaths to calm down. Where you're from, do you call a $13,140,000 dowry a breakup fee? Dowry? Don't you need to marry for business alliances? Are you crazy? I don't even want the company, why would I get into a business marriage? If anyone tries to force me to marry a woman I don't love, I'll take them down with me. No one gets to live. Yep, still young. Right in the middle of his rebellious phase. It was as if Leo knew what I was thinking. Are you secretly calling me immature again? Young and naive? I shook my head. No, I wasn't. You're not me. You don't know what I want. Now, I'm going to tell you one last time. What I want has never been money. It's what I like, what I choose. His way of thinking wasn't wrong at all. It was just that I'd been forced by life so many times that my own desires had long stopped being the priority. But people are supposed to be like Leo. He wasn't wrong. He was just living the way he wanted to live. I like you. I want to marry you. You're the only one I'm willing to marry. I placed my hand in his. I wanted to live by my own desires for once, too. Besides, he'd already paid the dowry. What else was I supposed to do? Now that everything was cleared up, someone was ready to settle old scores. When you first brought me home, were you planning on making me one of those guys out there? I quickly denied it. A rare masterpiece like you? Of course I was keeping you for myself.